It's Wednesday, July 8th, 2015, and this is the Product Mentor Talk. Today we'll be joined by one of our mentors, Felix Sargent, Product Manager, Bloomberg, to lead a talk on inheriting a project. And just allow me to briefly explain the format for those of you joining us today. The Product Mentor Program is a program that pairs product managers and mentors and mentees together for a 6-month period, helping everyone improve their careers and really just gain new experiences in product management. Each of the mentors leads a live stream, and that's who will be joining us today. That's Felix and his talk. And that's who you see in the room is mentors and mentees along the bottom of your screen. So everyone can kind of just wave hi for a second. There we go, those of you who we can see. So what we're going to do very quickly is just do some quick introductions, and I'll tell everyone who's joining us a little bit more about the program. So let me just I'm going to just point out, Amanda's having some technical difficulties, but it's Amanda Ralph. She's one of our really great mentors down in Australia, but she's having technical difficulties, so we'll just wave hi, Amanda. There we go. And that's how video works. All right. And so let's go to Andrew next.
Hey, my name is Andrew. I work at Verizon on their mobile apps, specifically on the FiOS side for the My FiOS app, and I'm a product manager for that.
Excellent.
And I'm also a mentee currently in the program as well.
Great. And Felix.
Hi, my name is Felix Sargent. I'm a product manager for Bloomberg. Specifically, I work on Bloomberg Vault surveillance, which monitors all the financial industry's communications and tries to find people doing bad things with them. And I'm a
Awesome. And Vikas.
Hi, I'm Vikas Batra. I'm a product manager at Alcatel-Lucent developing small cells, and I'm a mentor.
Outstanding. Great. So for those of you who are joining us, whether if you're on the YouTube channel or coming through one of the through our other different channels that we have available, if you go to theproductmentor.com/live, you'll be able to watch the live stream and ask questions in real time. And as the questions come in, I'll be passing them along to Felix to answer them. So I've got an eye on that channel. So as and you ask questions at any time. And just a little bit about myself. I am Jeremy Horn, aka the Product Guy, founder of the Product Group and this Product Mentorship Program. And with all that said, let me hand it over to you now, Felix, to take it away.
Great. Hi, everyone. Let's see. Let's get into the presentation. So I was inspired to do this presentation because I recently took over a project. Let's share the entire screen. And one of the hardest thing you can do is to come on board with a new project and try to figure out exactly what you're doing, who you're working with, and what product you're going on to. Ideally, we would like to start from square one. We would like to go out with a project, and we'd like to start our own company. We'd like to have infinite budget, and we'd like to hire all the engineers that we need. We would have either existing happy customers, or we would start entirely in stealth mode where no one would know anything about us, and we could just come out and beat the market senseless with our incredible vision, and do that on our own timeline. We don't. we don't get that luxury as being product managers, and one of the worst things about that is I feel that so much of product management training, if you get it at all, or just business degrees or engineering in general, teaches you so much about how to manage a product itself, but not necessarily how to get started and how to be comfortable in an environment where you don't know anyone, you don't know what's going on, you don't know anything about the industry, and you might have been a product manager before, but now you're in completely uncharted territories. So the question, if we want to start from square one, is why do we get hired? And the answer to that most of the time is because something broke. And the reason something broke is because somebody broke it. Either in the best scenario, someone, the company is just growing too fast, or they have these great ideas, they've got too much budget, too many engineers, and they need someone to help make more of those visions a reality. That, unfortunately, is a very rare case. Hello? Okay. Instead, the most likely thing that that happens is that the product manager before you got fired, or even more likely, they never had a product manager at all. And they're a group of engineers, and maybe you have a CEO who has become completely overburdened with the stresses of trying to run a company, trying to find investors, trying to find customers, and trying to manage a team, and realizes that he needs to, or she needs to, outsource to someone else and get them to take over. Or in the case of a large company, something has become such a snafu that they need someone to just sit down, look at it for a long enough time, and take an entire problem apart to the point where they might be able to get something that they can sell out of this. So that's your job. You're brought in to fix this scenario, but you don't know anything about it. So what do you do when you're new? Well, when you're new, the company is over budget, most likely. They're probably over time. They're completely disorganized, without a doubt. And strangely enough, they're still growing. And you, on the other hand, don't know anything about the product because you got brought in. You managed to ace the interview, which is fantastic, and beat out all those other really competitive product managers, but that doesn't mean much. You don't know who your team is. They, you went through the interviews, and we like to think that when we're interviewing, not only are the company interviewing you, but you're also interviewing the company. More along those lines. It's like you kind of get a preliminary investigation of what it's like to be interrogated by someone, but that doesn't give you any sort of indication as to what it'll be like to live with them and to work and cry and go through all the trials and tribulations that making a product has. And worst of all, you don't really know what's broken. And this can, strangely enough, be one of the hardest tasks to figure out, because you don't know why. You never know why exactly you got hired. You're just happy that you're getting paid on those first few days. So the question is, what's your job here? Like, you know that you've got a job, but what do you actually have to do in order to set yourself up for success? And how can setting yourself up for success be very different from making the product a success? How do you focus on establishing yourself in a company and establishing yourself as a product owner when you don't know anyone, you don't know what you really need to do? The interesting thing about this is that the role of a product manager is to primarily, like the way it's described in literature, is to create a vision and then carry out that vision, find out what the customer needs are, and coordinate the team. But first and foremost, you need to create that team. And now you get to be welcomed to your very first day at school. So a lot of what I'm going to be talking about was originally inspired by The First 90 Days, which was a book by Michael D. Watkins that I found to be incredibly useful in getting started in a few different jobs and a few different projects that I've taken over, either just moving laterally from within a company or just starting out straight from the beginning. But it tends to be a bit generic. Which of course is very useful. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is make this a little bit more narrow for the product manager, for the product group. Unfortunately, our job is mainly politics. In order to be a good product manager, it's not about coming up with requirements and making sure that the Scrum board is tight. It makes you an okay product manager, but to be a good one or to be a truly great one, you need to understand the political environment of the company that you're entering in, and you need to be able to make sure that when anything changes, you can insulate your team from political shifts, and you can ensure that you still have the resources necessary in order to get the product out the door and actually satisfy your customers. So how do you do that? Meet with everybody, absolutely everybody. Within the first 30 days, you should do nothing else but go through your calendar and meet everyone on your team, meet with everyone who they're tangentially related to, try to find out all the different dependencies that your team has with other teams if you're in a large corporation. Try to if there aren't any product manager meetup groups or anything like this, or an internal version of the product guy, then start one. And everyone's going to be like, come on, you're too new. How could you possibly start something like that? And the trick is bring food or booze or something else like that, and people will just tend to show up. But the most important thing is do 15-minute conversations with people and bring a notebook. Those conversations should be truly, truly open-ended and awkward. Listen, and one of the reasons I say that it should be awkward is because an awkward conversation is one of the best ways to have a really honest conversation. If you open yourself up to people, if you give a little bit of confession, show your nervousness, you get a very quick insight to the type of people that you're communicating with. And if you are talking to a person who says, thank you very much, I really appreciate your help, I'm really happy that you're here, or that I don't really know what you should be doing, but talk to me if you need anything, is very different from conversations that I've had where someone says, I don't care who you are, just get out of my way, I'm really trying to focus on doing other things, I can't schedule time with you, you just do what you need to do. You would know exactly which box to put that person in when you come across that scenario. So when you're having these conversations, how do you want to structure it so that you can be most effective at getting a good level of groundwork for what's truly going on in the company? One of my favorite tactics is to talk about what is versus what should be. So you should ask the person, what do you do? Because you've probably only met them. And it's funny because it's one of those things where, you work on software development. Well, okay, well, but what are you really working on? Oh, well, we're trying to ensure that we have this API layer that communicates with this thing to this thing. Oh, cool. Well, what do you want to do? And that changes the conversation a little bit, because instead they, depending on how they take the conversation, they say, well, I'd really like to be hiking. And that's one thing. If you've seen the Monty Python skit where everyone, no one likes to be in the Royal British Army, and say, well, okay, go play the piano then. On the other hand, they may say something along the lines of, well, we don't really need an API for this. The whole reason that we're building this thing out is because, the chief technical officer is, really hot on APIs, but, none of our customer base are technical enough in order to be able to tie into it, and we're seeing really big performance problems over here, and I think this is really what should be working on. Crucial information, not just for helping you update your product plan, but also for having a better understanding of that particular employee's relationship with the CTO.
So Felix, we just had a question come in, and I'm going to hand it over to Andrew to ask the question.
So this is something I've struggled with in a sense of meeting the team. A lot of times, being at a big company, you're taking over something that possibly as team members you've never worked with, but if everyone's remote, it's very hard to get that relationship going, I would say. and I've found that a lot of people that I think are super, like, I'm like, this person's really annoying, and then there's some 6 months later I meet them in real person. I'm like, this guy's actually awesome. I wish I had known this beforehand instead of just, deciding that, that this voice is just, this type of person. So I think lacking the person-to-person contact makes at least the meeting part harder for me in my projects and when I started at my current position. So I was wondering if you had any suggestions to help that if you have a remote team instead of like an in-person team.
I mean, remote teams are just inherently harder. I've definitely had more problems when I've been working on a remote team than when I've been working person to person. There was one specific situation where all the team was based here, and then we had one guy out in a remote location, and we gave him one particular project to work on because he could work on it by himself and didn't need a lot of feedback. And I absolutely messed up because what happened is he was working, he had no input from the rest of the team, he drifted off, he had no one reviewing his code, or if anyone was reviewing his code, it was, they didn't know where he was coming from. And I realized that the only thing I could have done in order to make that better was to schedule more one-on-ones. And I think that's the main reason why I say that your one-on-ones should be free to be awkward. Just go in with the intention of it being awkward, because especially when you're remote, the biggest thing you lack is the ability to create culture between people. I mean, one of the reasons that Slack is becoming more and more powerful these days is because communication by default happens in Slack, and by default, everyone's listening into the same communication. So people can be sharing memes, they can be making jokes, and you get to, even if you're not making those jokes, you're lurking so that when you make something, you know what people will get. And so to be able to create a more stable situation, create an environment where people can lurk, and also create an environment where people feel comfortable being awkward with you, because that means that they don't have to then get over that hump when they've got something they really want to talk about. Does that, how do you feel?
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. I think, even if they're not in-person one-on-ones, it's kind of awkward setting up a one-on-one in general, but that might be even better over the phone because it's even more awkward over the phone, just like a one-on-one, hey, what's up conversation. So I don't think of doing those because of the fact that it's like, hey, this isn't person to person, but and then letting people lurk and things like that, not separate them from the group. I think there's a lot of, if someone's siloed off into another area, then you'll never be able to get to know them well and start the communication. If you're just asking them every time, just like, where's this, where's that, they won't like you because that's all you ask them. So I think you have to make, even more so like over remote, you have to make the attempt. And I found that the more you talk to people, the more you find out what they really like and interested, what makes them like get excited. And just learning that about that person, gives you that kind of connection that you might not normally have if you're just talking about like business situations the entire time. So yeah,
okay. I'm going to get back to the presentation now. Excuse me. How do I click?
Yeah. So just before you jump to that, Felix,
yes.
Just want to remind everyone. So we don't have any other questions right now, but if you have questions, definitely submit them to theproductmentor.com/live, and as they come in, I'll be passing them along to Felix. And that said, Felix, take it away.
Okay. Okay. So first is, what do you do? What do you want to do? Next group of questions is, how are we as a group doing? I just came onto this product. How are we doing? Are we royally screwed, or are we kind of kicking butt, but we just need a little bit of extra help? And then ask, how are we doing it? Like, if we're doing truly badly, what's going on? Like, why are we doing truly badly? Then there's the question of, okay, well, what should we be doing? If we shouldn't be doing this product at all, That's really useful. Okay. If we shouldn't be doing this product at all, and you've got an engineer on your team who's saying that, or one of the designers is thinking that there's a problem with the visual design, that's going to be essential information to you as a product manager, and it's important that they know that you know this, rather than them working behind your back in order to in order to make sure that this is going on, because far too frequently I have seen situations where a new product manager has come on and then everyone freaks out because the number one thing that they're anticipating is a dramatic change of course, a dramatic change in direction, and there are some people who want it and there are some people who don't, but the most important thing is that you know who's who and that you give them an outlet for those concerns and those feelings. What should we be doing, or how can we do it? So if we shouldn't be doing that and we should be doing this, well, I'm new here. Who do I need to talk to in order to figure out that, whether we should be doing that or not? And I said this before, but you should always, always, always bring a notepad to your one-on-ones so you can write these things down. But even more importantly, like a psychologist, you should let people know that you are writing down everything that you're talking about so that they know that you're not just talking with them in order to talk. And this is something I've heard a lot of engineers. This is something I've heard about me personally, where someone's kind of like, I really like that we talk, but like sometimes I feel that we talk just to talk, and that you're not, you're not taking notes for these things. So that's why I started carrying a notebook. Then another question I ask is, what do you think I should do? What should I be doing? I'm new here. What am I doing? Why am I here? Why did I get brought in? It's kind of one of the questions that you ask. You ask your mother when you're 13 years old, and you try to want to figure out what the meaning of life is, and they say, well, I don't really know, but you're here, kid, so figure it out. And then, what do you think I should do, and what should I do about it? Oh, excuse me, I messed up the previous one. What do you think I do? As in, what do you think a product manager does? I've met with so many, not just engineers, salespeople, marketing, technical operations people who have no idea what a product manager does. It's very, I don't think it's uncommon that we, as product managers, or people who self-identify as product managers, get brought in on different auspices, where like our role is like manager or like business owner, or all of these very vague titles, being person who walks in, tells you what you should be doing, and ruins everything, pulling a swoop and poop. If you say like, who do you think I am? You get a wonderful insight into their understanding of your role, and it also gives you a point at which you can correct them or give a better understanding, console some of their fears that they might have about you in this role, leading or directing this project. Then lastly, these are some of my favorite questions. What meetings should I go to? Because I guarantee you are not, in your first 30 days, you are not going to the meetings where things happen. And I've been shocked so many times where I have been brought onto one project and then I was actually working on a completely different project entirely. And everything that I interviewed for, all of my skill set, completely out the window, and no, you're a resource now. And you're just, and then, we're very happy to have you, and, we think you've got a fantastic skill set, but you're not working on that, your dream job anymore. Thank you very much. Saying what meetings should I go to? This works very well with people who are in middle management positions who are already in these meetings, and are especially useful when you meet with people who are who are both stakeholders in your project and also people who are who your project has dependencies on, because you get a better insight into what's going on in the company as a whole. Also, during your first 30 or 90 days, you don't have anything on your calendar, if you're lucky, and fill it up. Fill it up, because I guarantee you're not going to be able to actually get any more substantial work done by messing around in Jira, because you don't know who you're doing it for. And then finally, who should I meet with next? And through the process of your conversations, they say like, oh, you really should meet with Charlie. He's a designer over on completely the other side of the business. He's in this office over here, but I think you two would really get along. And those kinds of business relationships are worth their weight in gold. Or knowing someone who's in purchasing can help you get a contract. Someone in legal, where you need a legal decision, or depending on how your business is structured, marketing. It can be one of the most useful things, and this is another reason to have a notepad to write it down and put it into your calendar. You had someone new? Cool. So, right, if I didn't say it enough, take notes. You need to figure out who likes who. And then breathe. Because once you've done that, once you've churned through everything you can, you're probably going to be a good 30 days in, maybe 45 days in, and you're going to have a better understanding of the product and the company than a lot of people who've worked there for years. You're not going to truly understand the culture yet. You're not going to understand the way people do things or how they react in emergencies, but now you know who to talk to, and because those conversations have been awkward, and but forthright, because you don't know what team you play on yet, people are going to know you, and they're going to have this initial impression of you as being someone who is an open communicator, who doesn't play political games and is genuinely interested in building the best product, as opposed to what happens when you meet someone through a decisive meeting where they're screaming and yelling and kicking chairs. Doesn't matter if you've never met that person, if you had a nice conversation before. Sorry, what I mean is, if you've had a nice conversation before, people know that things change, but that one-to-one connection is so much more important than any kind of team or politics that you might be involved in.
Hey, I'm going to jump in here, Felix. Got a question from Amanda, but because she's having some technical problems with her mic, I'm gonna jump in and ask that question.
Okay.
And I'll do my best. I think I'm having trouble with some of the commas. So, if in the course of those discussions you reach the conclusion the way it has been done is flawed, how do you influence and lead the discussion where it needs to go?
Right. That's exactly what I'm getting to, and I'm really happy you brought me to that point. When I say now breathe, I wasn't just saying relax. In fact, relax is the last thing you should do. Throughout all of these conversations, the number one thing you should have been doing was taking notes, not saying anything back. Describe who you are, but not what you want to do. And the most important thing is that the moment you say what you want to do, or the moment you even try to demonstrate either intelligence or competency in this, you are sandboxed. And this is quite possibly one of the hardest things to do. It is for me, and I think one of the things about being a product manager is you have a strong preference for trying to help and being very social. So you want to help people come to conclusions or come to agreement and move a product forward. And during this time, you absolutely cannot and must duct tape your mouth shut, because the moment you disagree with someone in a very declarative way, you are stopping them from from talking to you and then allowing you to get more insight into that particular camp and stream and series of politics. It's like when you talk about Republicans versus Democrats. If you go to a rally, they'll say terrible things about each other, but neither of them will come to the same page and realize that they share these common core values. It's just that they they see this value embodied through this method or comes through a different method. My problem is totally a mobile device problem. Oh, okay. Don't get yourself to that point. Excuse me. Let me go back to the presentation.
So cool. I think that works. I don't have any other questions just now. Hold on. Let's see. Oh, I do have another question. It just came in from someone named Anonymous. So let's see.
I met Anonymous once.
Yes, many times, all the time. Let's see. It would be great to. Let's see. Okay. Never mind. I'm going to throw it back to you. I'll speak to Anonymous's question at the end. And for those of you, anyone else who has a question, definitely go to theproductmentor.com/live, post your questions, and I will pass them along to Felix.
Okay. Let's do it. Okay. So the trick is to breathe now. Let's see. One of the scenarios that I came across more than a few times actually was that we would have engineers being pulled in 6 or 8 different directions, and stakeholders going directly up to the engineering group and saying like, "Hey, I need to work on this now," and they'd be like, "Oh, okay, all right, okay, I'll go do this." Oh, no, okay, I need to do this.
We're getting a black screen from you right now.
Oh no. Okay, all right, thank you. Stop screen sharing, and I think it's because I shared PowerPoint. How's this?
Looking good.
Looking good. Okay, cool. So in this situation, wait, let's see. Engineers were getting pulled in like 18 different directions, and I go to the product group. I know all you guys are talking about, and it was so easy to think, wow, you guys really should be using Agile. Oh, I really should be, as the product manager, everything should go through me, and we should put it on the backlog, and we always can pull things off the backlog, and the engineers should only commit to what they think they can get done, and we shouldn't do all this firefighting. And the moment that I said this, that's the moment I lost all momentum, and it's not that they didn't believe in Agile, it's just that it couldn't work yet, right? It's kind of like, oh yeah, they already knew what to fix, they just couldn't fix it themselves. They already knew that they needed to move to Agile, but they had actually no time in order to be able to move to it. And so for me to then prescribe that they should move to an Agile development method, I failed to have enough conversations and failed to do enough research to realize that things were so bad in the environment and maybe even the culture that trying to switch to Agile at that point was a non-starter, because they simply couldn't take a week away from the fires that they were fighting in order to be able to move over. And I think everyone thinking like, well, you just got to move. Like, there's no good time to do this. That's true, but the thing is, as a new product manager, the last thing you need to tell them is that they should just do it, because then you come off as very arrogant, that they haven't seen it before. So keep your mouth shut to avoid arrogance. So then in this scenario, let's see, what did I do? The thing we needed to do in that situation was, you needed to be in the company long enough and establish enough political capital to be able to give the developers enough room to breathe. Because while you might know the right solutions, you don't have that political capital. And unfortunately, political capital is one of the things that only comes with time. So one of the problems that comes up the most when I come into a new environment, and even as I have these conversations, I'm trying to figure out, is the problem the product? Is it positioned properly? Are we getting enough business? Are we trying to make the right thing? Is there anyone who actually wants to consume this? Did I get signed up for a ghost ship that will sail off into the night? Rarely that's one of the problems that you encounter as a new product manager. Is it a problem with the people? In projects that I've joined, there have been engineers who simply just did not like the idea of getting any work done, and their previous management were entirely non-technical, and so they could give ridiculously large estimates and say they were working, and they just didn't need to, and that can be a very tough environment to navigate, because you need to get someone fired or moved off. And again, you can't move too soon on things like this. There are situations where it's been run by the CEO, and the CEO is a complete egomaniac. How do you create a situation there where you can create a nice insulating bubble for the team to work and to get work done without the CEO storming in, and make the CEO realize that there is a trade-off between what the stability that the team needs and the demands that they have come up across on their spirit quest while at Burning Man. That was a fun story. And if it's any of these things, you're kind of screwed, but not indefinitely. It just takes a lot of time. Then there's going to be the problem of, is it just the culture? And you're kind of screwed here too. I mean, basically, if you're becoming a new product manager, you're kind of screwed. The takeaway for the culture is that the best thing you can do is be awkward and open and honest, and then see where the political ley lines exist, and then hold yourself up as someone who doesn't play those games. And if you build a strong team underneath you, that's your job. Build up a strong team underneath you, and you won't have to, you'll have an army to fight for you, and you'll have people worth protecting. One of the nice things about being in a technical profession is that while you as a product manager might not be extraordinarily well valued, everyone who works for you, who might be an engineer or even a good designer, is extraordinarily well valued. The moment you earn their trust and the moment you have a good relationship with them, that's when you start establishing the political capital in order to make the changes necessary in order to protect the team. When one of my first gigs as a product manager, I was very nervous because I was previously an engineer, and I said, like, I really feel like I'm not doing any work. And my manager was, he did this fantastic double take where he said, well, Felix, your job is not to be heads down, getting stuff done, making products and requirements. Your job is to be heads up, looking for what's coming and looking for the storm clouds that are coming in the future, whether it's going to be, top down, whether someone's going to be unhappy, or whether it's in the market. So if you need to make these changes, don't tell anyone. And the reason is you will be considered Machiavellian. It's like telling someone that the really nice watch you're wearing is from Alibaba and you got it for $10 rather than $20. And do I want to show this? Yeah, look at it. Isn't it great? It's wonderful. Looks designer, and it is designer. It's from the same factory, but don't tell anyone, because the moment you tell people what your plans and your intentions are, the moment people get in front of you. And it's, as anyone who's been a product manager for a long time will tell you, you're always caught unaware by the nicest people. And so, I don't know, feign honesty, I guess. No, not really. Just don't tell people what you're going to do in the long run. Tell people what you're going to do in the short run. And that's why you need to cover your ass first. So you've identified your stakeholders, you know who's responsible, the CEO, the team, and everybody else. But now you actually need to get some work done. You need to fight your first fire. And the best way to do this is to, if you're technical, get into the weeds, especially if you have an engineering culture where that's welcome. If you're not technical, sign up for the sales teams and go out for a sales visit and demonstrate your knowledge of the product, and try to do supporting things for either the person that you work for, or in a meeting speak up for your team if someone is trying to drag them in different directions. Subtle, small maneuvers just to earn the respect from the people around you. And again, build trust.
So we've got a question from Anthony. So I'm going to hand it over to him to ask.
Hi. The question's a little bit outdated now just because you precisely answered that, but the question was essentially, what are some of your first go-to things that you can do to help build this political capital, both up and down the chain, right? Because navigating the political waters requires both trust for your supervisors and also the people that you're managing.
So it depends on your group of people. One of the things I really love in order to show off as a product manager on a new engineering team is make a pull request. And it's funny because it doesn't actually need to be any good. You don't really need to be in a feature. But say if you work on a website, if you just figure out how to get through the build system and figure out how to run the tests and then do a proper commit using GitHub and then push it and then ask for a code review. It doesn't matter if you just fixed a typo. The fact that you understand their tools and their processes, and most importantly, their culture, will ingratiate you. And also, it'll mean that you have to ask them questions because you need to know where these things are and where they belong. And this will give you a vital insight into whether the system actually works or not. Whether or not you're specifically a engineer, if you work in tech long enough, you probably know how to update an HTML page, or even just updating the documentation, because when you go through these processes, you see what really doesn't work for the people, or you uncover these situations where it's like they never even knew they needed it. Like I've come into projects and they're like, oh well, we didn't really write any docs. We're still in stealth mode, and I'm kind of like. And they haven't had a product manager before either, and you think, like, oh god, you guys have no docs and no requirements. Do you know what you're building? It helps. It helps to start those discussions. For your boss, I mean, on those one-on-ones, you really should be setting your expectations with them and saying, like, what do you want me to do? Why did you hire me? What are your expectations? How can I achieve them? What are some goals you can give me? Do you want me to, file some TPS reports? Again, with your salespeople, tell them, like, take me out to a customer. I want to see a customer, or put me on a call. I'll just shadow. I won't even say anything, but I just want to see what my customers are like. And that sacrificial offering will be very, very significant to them because you're getting into the weeds with them. And it's like you want to be the drill sergeant, right? You want to be the person who, not drill sergeant, you want to be the sergeant where, oh, that's a terrible irony.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I hope that never comes back.
You're the Felix Sargent. Oh, wait. Oh.
No. Where, they want to know that you're in the same foxhole rather than, like, I've had product managers who their job is to tell you to do what you're already doing. or they have a tendency to have meetings to say like, hey, I just spoke to management and we really should be doing this. Like, oh God, go away. Don't be that guy.
Awesome. And so just for as we're winding down, if anyone else has any questions, post them to theproductmentor.com/live, and I will get them over to Felix. And with that said, Felix, back to you.
Okay. Well, I'm just about to wrap it up. Okay, entire screen. Build trust, and then change things. So this is when the fun starts, and then this is when you can start actually applying all those lovely things you learn from being a product mentee or even a mentor or just watching these screencasts. Is that you can say, well, let's change to an agile workflow. Let's make it so that we have a fully indexed list of our requirements. Why don't we try building out some documentation or things along the lines of, there are these two political camps. I know. Let's get them in the same room and actually let them fight it out and see if they have a common interest or a common theme. And you can start spending that political capital. But until then, until you have political capital, you're still inheriting the project. And with that, summary: listen, take notes, don't act. Make a plan. Don't tell anyone about it. Get little wins. And for the first 30 or 90 days, ignore the product. Because it's not about the product. Focus on the team. Because without a team, you have no product.
Awesome. And we had a question that just came in. Did you want to finish up your last comment there, and then I'll throw it to the question?
I'm done. That's it. That was my outro.
So the question just came in from Michael. How do you build trust if you're joining a team where you have been thrown in quotes, to something you don't have experience in?
Well, I mean, that's exactly the environment that I'm trying to base this talk on, because I think that there are basically no situations where you inherit a product where you do have a background on it. I've on the products that I've started on, like previously, I worked on rack-based autoscale, scaling cloud infrastructures. Kind of before that, my gig, other than being a software engineer, was like, fixing Ubuntu boxes. And, you work on such a small scale, and then you need to learn about this large scale. And the most important thing is that you have to rely on your team in order to give you that knowledge and to give you that cultural knowledge. It's easy for us to think that because we're labeled product owners, we need to own a product. And that's not where we start. When we go into it, when we do it for long enough, we incorporate all the knowledge from sales and from engineering and the market in general and from the CEOs and from your customers, and you get to be a really good focal point so you can speak with expertise with anyone you're talking to. But until that point, you need to be a complete information sponge. But that's going to happen in every product. So get used to it and be awkward. If you get thrown in where people don't necessarily want your help, even more of a reason to. Sometimes you just actually have to wait, because sometimes they don't want you and they don't need you. Where an engineering team will say to you, that's great. I'm really glad that you can put things on a backlog, but we really don't want you to. Sometimes you just gotta chill. I've come onto a team where they're just kind of like, everything's going. Oh, an engineer pulled me aside, and he's kind of like, I really appreciate you trying to do stand-ups or trying to organize things, but I really need you to stop, because we're not going to be demoing things to you every 2 weeks. Everything's fine, and this is all back-end stuff anyway, and you'd never understand it. Well, I would understand it, but I tried to do too much before I built that trust. And sometimes a lot of it's just sitting around and being really, really bored between your meetings.
So what did you do to build that trust, I think, is what Michael's trying to get at.
Literally the only thing you can do is one-on-ones. And then through those one-on-ones, you find tasks. You need to have one-on-ones in order to, like, you can go to the existing meetings that the team has, and you can sit next to them and everything, but you need to get people to be honest with you, because people naturally whine and complain. But until you have something to fix, you're not on their team. So find something that's broken.
Okay, cool. And then over to Anthony with the next question.
Yeah, so I find the idea compelling when you say ignore the product and focus on the team. But what does ignoring the product look like when you're joining a team with ongoing product fires? Or in other words, like you're thrown into a situation where you already have to start spending political capital before you've had a chance to accrue it.
So two things for that. One thing is lean on your manager, or lean on the person who got you hired, because they're going to be your best resource for keeping you sane and stable. And there's never a situation where a fire occurs where one hasn't happened before it. And that's why I say one of the most important things you can do is just be hands-off and just observe. Because if you go in and you try to fix a fire, you will rely on your instincts and you'll get shot. It's like I don't know why I keep on going back to the whole foxhole analogy, but the veterans know which fights to get into and which ones not to, and you should figure out who the veterans are and do what they do first before you can come up with a strategy and a plan in order to react strategically to these problems, because your job is to be strategic.
These are very good universal truths. This is great.
Oh, good.
We don't have any other questions right now. So I'm going to start wrapping up. So as always, the presentation that you guys just saw will be posted on our SlideShare channel. And thank you again to our speaker, Felix Sargent, Product Manager at Bloomberg, for today's discussion on inheriting a project. A lot of really great advice, on building trust, working with teams all around. And a big thank you from me, Jeremy Horn, the product guy, and to everyone else who joined us today, and the product mentor. And don't forget, if you're interested in being a product mentor, like today's speaker, just go visit theproductmentor.com, sign up today. We need a lot more mentors. Our next session is on November 1st. And also, if you're looking to fill a new product job with a great product person, visit our own free-for-all job board at theproductjobs.com. And for those in session 3 that I'm talking to right now, don't forget, our party is tomorrow, and I hope to see a lot of you there. And to everyone else, sign up, and I'll see you everyone next time. Bye.